Hello, it's Ranger Russ back at the Meigs Nature Center. So let's start out right away with our reminders. First reminder, cough into your elbow, wash your hands, keep 7 skunks away from one another. If you've got big skunks like we have here at Hammonasset, maybe you only need to be 6 skunks away. But you need to keep your social distance. Make sure that you're washing your hands for 20 seconds. Okay, you really need to wash your hands, soap and water. Wear your masks. Okay, that's a good one. And don't touch your face. That's how you're going to spread things around. So let's keep all of those in mind. Connecticut state parks are open, so go visit them. There may be closures. Some of them might be closed. I know that Sleeping Giant closes, Kent Falls, and right now I believe Chatfield Hollow is still closed, not because of the virus, it's because they had some storm damage in that big storm that we had on Monday, the big wind damage. Reminders, these programs happen from Tuesday to Friday at 11 and 2 o'clock every day. So make sure that you tune in. We're trying new things every day. So today is one of those new things. I'm going on an adventure. I'm going to be heading out, finding a new place to talk about. I gave you a clue yesterday. It is a place where I really started my career with the DEEP. So it's going to be kind of cool to go there. We'll see what we can find to talk about. I have some ideas, but you never know what we'll see when we get up there. So that's really exciting that it's going to be a brand new thing for you and for me. I'm hoping that everyone's enjoying this. I'm having a blast. It is really fun to get to reach out to you. I get to see the comments. That really helps me. I like the questions. So remember, you can only stump me once a day. And yesterday, you guys stumped me. So let's start talking about my favorite animal for today. One of my all-time favorites. I love talking about this animal, and it is the milksnake. I'm going to get the milksnake. Some of you probably know how it got its name, but I'm going to take it out and show you before we talk about how it got its name. Remember, we only put them in the pillowcases just before a program. They can breathe through the pillowcase. It keeps them calm, keeps them warm. All right. This is our milksnake. Now, we were trying to figure out the other day how long this milksnake has been at the Nature Center, and it's almost as long as I've been here. So this milksnake we've had about 18 years. That's the nearest we can figure. Could be a little bit older than that, but about 18 years. Now take a look at the snake. Look at the pattern. Okay, it's got a beautiful pattern. It's got a nice checkered belly there. Now this snake is getting ready to shed. And if you go back and check our previous videos at meigspointnaturecenter.org, the virtual learning center, we talk quite a bit about shedding their skin. This snake is heading into a shed cycle. So it's getting very cloudy here. The patterning is kind of dull. The coloring is getting dull. Milk snakes come in 2 different colors. They can be this color here, which is brown and sort of this gray color and black. Or they can be red and white and black, which makes them very bright. And that makes people very nervous about these. They often will kill them because they think it's a venomous snake. These are not venomous. I wouldn't be holding it like this if it was venomous. Okay, so why is it called a milk snake? It doesn't look milky in color, does it? No. What other reasons might there be for calling it a milk snake? Well, the story goes that farmers would find these snakes in their barns. So the farmer would go into the barn and they have to milk their cows. So they would go to milk the cows. And sometimes the cows didn't produce as much milk as other times. Cows are more consistent nowadays. We get about the same amount of milk every day. But back then, sometimes there would be more. If there was less milk and the farmer saw the snake, he thought, oh, I know what happened. That snake must have gone and drank the milk out of the cow. Now that's really silly to us, right? That just doesn't make any sense. This little snake biting onto a cow and sucking the milk out. If anybody has ever tried to milk a cow, it's not easy, all right? So it didn't really make sense, but that's what farmers thought. So they started calling this the milk snake. And the camera is focusing on me, not on the snake, so I'm going to move over here. Okay, now this snake lives in barns, very common in barns, and it likes to eat rodents, but it's in the kingsnake family, which means it will eat other snakes. Really cool. Some snakes do eat other snakes. It likes to eat lots of rodents. It will eat eggs. It will eat other snake eggs and bird eggs. Okay? These snakes do not really hibernate. They could go into what we would consider hibernation, but really they do something called brumation. So there's a really good vocabulary word for the day. That means that they will go in and get into like a sleep, but if it gets warm, they can come out and start to search for food. All right, so they're not going to spend the entire winter. If it gets warm, they have the capability of warming up and going out and hunting. Mice are active all winter, so the snake would be able to find them in the middle of the winter. So brumation. If you go to the Virtual Learning Center on our website, there's a whole list of vocabulary words next to the videos. We're adding them. Some of them don't have them. But brumation is a very good word to put on that list. So we'll see that word on the list. Okay. So these snakes, they live about 20 years in captivity, a bit less, up to 15 years in the wild. So not a really long-lived snake. I'm going to try and get him so that I can show you a little bit more. I mentioned earlier how he resembles a venomous snake, the coral snake. A really easy way to tell coral snakes. Now, we don't have coral snakes in Connecticut, but the way you can tell, if this had a red stripe, the stripe would be here, and the red stripe would be touching the black. So the saying goes, red on black, no attack. Red on yellow, if the red touches yellow, not black, kill a fellow. So that's a way you can tell a milk snake from a coral snake. Coral snakes are really deep south down in Florida. You're not going to find them up here. And that is a venomous snake. These snakes will have up to 17 eggs. These are oviparous, which means they lay eggs, and they will lay about 17 eggs. They lay them under a log or someplace that's going to keep a consistent temperature and the consistent amount of moisture. So that's why they're going to go under the logs. And it takes them about 3 or 4 years before they're mature, before they're old enough to have young of their own. So they only reproduce for about 10 years. They're going to be laying eggs. The younger snakes aren't going to lay that many eggs. So, okay, a younger snake, maybe 3 or 4 eggs. And then the older they get, the more eggs they lay. All right. We seeing any questions? Somebody says, I miss you. What birds eat milk snakes? Great question. And it's mainly the hawks. The red-tailed hawk really likes snakes. That's why these snakes are more active at dusk and overnight than during the day, because they can avoid those predators. An owl will try and get them at night, but owls tend to go for more rodents than snakes. But they're opportunistic. They'll eat the snake. Other things that will eat this snake might be a fox or a raccoon. Larger mammals like that will try and eat these snakes. Now, they can get quite a bit bigger. This one, we've had them a long time. But they can get longer than this. This is a good size. I've seen them. Can you see how long it is? I've seen them about 1 foot longer than this one and quite a bit thicker. You can see with age comes some problems, and he's got a little bit of a growth here, a little cyst. It's healing up nicely, though. It opened up last time he shed. And the next shed should heal that up even more. Every time they shed, their skin heals a little bit. I see tiny snakes with these markings in the fall. So yeah, these snakes are going to hatch out of the eggs in late summer, early fall. They can be about 7 inches long when they come out of the eggs. So the young ones are, a good length. But this is the pattern. Now, sometimes they're going to be the bright colors, the red and white, and turn into this color. This one, when it was a baby, was the bright colors. And it got the color changed as it matured. Sam is wondering why snakes are lighter in color on the bottom. I love the questions. So the back is where the snake is going to be visible. So typically the back color is more camouflage. They don't need to camouflage the belly because that's going to be on the ground. So they just developed where they're lighter on the belly. We'll talk about camouflage with one of the fish we're going to do in a little while. How fish, it's a different reason that fish are lighter on the bottom than on the top. But that's a good question. It's a good observation too, if you notice the lighter belly. And also, if you look, the belly scales are very wide. They're long and rectangular, where the scales on the back are more like you would think of as a fish scale. Why is the milk snake in captivity? This particular snake was actually bred and raised in captivity, and we got it from a breeder. So that's how we ended up with this snake. Typically, you cannot obtain native species within Connecticut. This one actually came from New York, and there are permits you have to get before you bring them across state lines. But because we're a DEP facility, we just fill out the paperwork, put an order in. It's not really like ordering a snake. And then when one comes available, or if we find a contact that has one, then we can get one. Okay, questions. I'm only seeing the bottom half. Something about eating, neighborhood garden. I am near the marshes. So I'm guessing that someone has a snake in the garden. There are several snakes that will go into gardens. And typically what they're looking for are insects and worms, because those are great things to find in a garden. And most of the snakes that are eating insects and worms don't get really large. About 3 feet would be the max. Now, all snakes have teeth. Smaller snakes aren't going to bite. They know that their bite isn't going to really scare you or even be able to penetrate your skin. This snake bites occasionally. I really think he bites because he's bored, not that he's angry at me or hungry. Sometimes when he's been doing a long program, he just very slowly opens his mouth and bites the fleshy part of my finger right there. He just bites it slowly, gently. Just all of a sudden I feel a little pricking sensation and realize, oh, he's biting me now. So that usually means it's time to wrap him up and he doesn't have to continue with the program. Now I'm saying he. With these snakes, the boys from the girls, you have to do an internal probe in order to find out. So he's got a cloaca back here. That's where he goes to the bathroom. When you stick the probe in there, you can tell whether it's a boy or girl. We typically don't do that with our resident snakes unless they need to go to the vet, or in this case, he was a captive bred and he came to us already knowing that it was a boy. Okay, what are some other ones? What is my favorite snake? Oh my goodness, that's a very hard question. I don't know. Every snake has a cool thing about it. So I would say for different reasons, all the snakes are my favorites. Any animal is going to be a favorite, and it depends on the day and what I'm learning about. So as I learn new things about an animal, it's going to be my favorite for a time. So I can't really pick one. Are all snakes carnivorous? Great question. Yes. All snakes are carnivores. They did find one snake in the wild that eats things that it finds dead. And that was in Africa. I don't remember the species of snake. But all the other snakes that we know of in the world capture and kill their own food. They don't eat food that they find dead. They are carnivores, so they find their dead. That one snake It's the only species that they know of that will eat something that is dead. Okay, I also want to say, if you guys want to post where you're writing from, I really appreciate that. Keep those comments coming. And if you have any questions, if you're watching this video not live, you can post your questions. But if you have suggestions or things that you'd like to see a program, I would love to do some programs that are viewer request programs. So send us messages. You can go to our website and send a message. You can message us on Facebook. And we have lots of volunteers that are checking the questions and comments, and we'll see if we can do a program that you guys really enjoy. All right. What else can we tell you about this? I'm waiting. Let's see if there are any other questions. All right, you guys are sending so many questions, I'm having a hard time reading it. Somebody, Ava and Elliot in Utah, you guys are out there. I bet it's warmer out there than it is here. Today when I left for work, it was below freezing. It was really cold this morning. It's warming up a little bit, but are you afraid of any animal? That is a good question. I don't think that I am. I mean, there are certain animals that I don't want to get bitten by, but I feel like understanding the way animals behave and the reasons for their behavior, I'm not afraid of any of them. Afraid of. Freezing here too. All right. I'm going to put this snake down. I'm going to show you its wound again. When it was open, we were treating it with antibacterial lotion, and we actually mix in a little cream that helps to soften it and reduce the scarring. And then when it sheds, it will be able to shed this off, and gradually this wound will heal up, and you won't even notice it after a few sheds. Typically, a snake is going to shed 3 or 4 times a year. When a snake is sick, they shed more often. So because he's recovering from this wound, he may shed more than 4 times a year. He may shed 6 times a year. Owen wants to know, what is his favorite food? Great question. This one likes to eat mice. And because he's not the biggest milk snake around, he's eating small mice. So small fuzzy-sized mice, that's his favorite food. Do they change colors when the seasons change? Another great question. You guys are doing great. Snakes do not typically change color by season. The color changes as they're getting ready to shed their skin. It will get darker and duller. Then when they shed, their colors are brighter, more vibrant. But nope, they're not going to change as it gets lighter dark or as seasons change. How does it breathe in the bag? It can breathe right through the pillowcase. I don't recommend you doing it because you use more oxygen than a snake does, but it can definitely breathe through the pillowcase. All right, any other questions? So I'm going to remind everyone that I will be going on an adventure this afternoon. So if you tune in at 2 o'clock, I will be visiting another state park. I'm very excited to go there. And the clue is that it's a place where I started my career. So that's your clue for the day. Also, if you guys tune in to Channel 3 this evening at 5 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and then tomorrow morning's news, the Nature Center is going to be on the news on Channel 3. So I'm really excited. We're going to be doing there's going to be a story about this Facebook Live programs that we do. So tune in to Channel 3 this evening, and you'll get to see that. Let's do a shout out to the Friends of Hammonasset, because they're the ones that are paying to feed all these animals while the building is closed. And if you would like to help support the Friends of Hammonasset, you can go to their website, friendsofhammonasset.org. There's a donate button there. And you could, I think there's a comment thing you can put down that you enjoy the programs or that you support what they're doing, because they do a great job. They keep everything going. And, we really appreciate all of the work that the friends do. They're not able to do as much right now because everyone is staying at home. Normally we would be getting ready for the big plant sale where they raise all of their money, and many of you probably have purchased plants from the friends to help support the park. So not sure if or when that is going to happen. As soon as the park's open, as soon as the nature center's open, you'll be welcome. I'll be happy to invite all of you in and visit with all the animals and learn more about the animals that I'm showing you. These are just small examples. And I want to remind everyone, if you go to meigspointnaturecenter.org, the virtual learning center, you can get vocabulary lists, word searches, word scrambles, crossword puzzles, outside activities. We have a scavenger hunt up there. There's going to be more scavenger hunts. So lots of great things to keep you entertained, and hopefully you can learn something as you go. So unless I see any other questions, when do they shed their skin? You guys are right on it with questions today. The skin sheds when the snake, old skin, gets too old. So they're regular intervals for a snake. It doesn't matter the time of year, the season. They're just regular intervals throughout the summer they're going to shed. When they go into brumation or hibernation, because some snakes do actually hibernate, they're probably not going to shed at that time. They're not eating, they're not moving, they're not doing anything. But a young snake, if it's hatched out in hibernation, which some snakes do that, might shed pretty quickly after it hatches out of its egg. So again, these guys will have 17 eggs, and the parents have nothing to do with the young. Once the mother lays the eggs under that nice moist log, she's going to go off, and when the young hatch, they are completely on their own. And the only time they gather together is during breeding seasons, when the boys are looking for the girls. So they're pretty solitary snakes. How long does a snake take to shed its skin? Typically, a snake is going to take about a week. Larger snakes a little bit longer for the entire process. So this snake is right at the beginning. I wouldn't even say it's in the process right now. But once its eyes really cloud over, that's the beginning. And about a week later, it will have shed that skin. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. I love all the questions. Again, go back and view our other videos, because some of the things that I talked about with other snakes apply to the milk snake as well. So thank you all, and I'll see you this afternoon at 2 o'clock.